The national government has turned its back on New York City.
The New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, openly reprimanding President Biden, a rare move from a fellow Democrat on the national stage.
Every service in the city is going to be impacted by the asylum seeker crisis.
The mayor saying it's taking an economic toll on the city, having already spent $817 million on housing and services for asylum seekers as of the end of March. And he expects that number to balloon to $1.4 billion by the end of the fiscal year.
Several months later,
his 2021 campaign fundraising potentially received some of these foreign funds with through a Brooklyn-based construction company to potentially funnel foreign money into his campaign. So a lot of questions right now about what the mayor did know or potentially did not know as this latest development comes to light. Caitlin.
Yeah, and I mean, the New York Times says that essentially the FBI agents approached him on the street, and that's when they notified him that they had this court-ordered subpoena warrant to get his phones, to get his iPad, that they returned them a few days later, the New York Times says. But all of this is part of that wide-ranging investigation. Clearly, I mean, it's a lot more serious than we thought.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Democrat mafia, okay? As mob boss Joe Biden, a.k.a. Sackchinian, is turning up the heat on New York Democrat Mayor Eric Adams, as we now have bombshell news that Eric Adams was raided in broad daylight after an event by the FBI. He was raided in person. They pulled up to Eric Adams, told his security to step aside. We need to take all of your phones and your electronic devices, including things like iPads. Okay, now, again, this is huge news because if you guys recall, there was bombshell news that dropped, I think, last week or so, that the FBI had raided a top campaign fundraiser that worked for Eric Adams on his campaign to become mayor of New York City. Now, this happened as Eric Adams was at the White House begging Democrats, begging Joe Biden to give New York City some money to handle the illegal immigration crisis. Now, Eric Adams recently, at least over the past year or so, has been very critical of the Biden administration, of the federal government, in regards to, one, not securing the border, and two, not handing over taxpayer dollars to help New York deal with a problem that they asked for by declaring themselves a sanctuary city. Okay, and there's been some back and forth between Eric Adams and the federal government on this issue. Clearly, this is something that mob boss Sackchinian Joe Biden doesn't really like too much.
The administration blames Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul for the migrant mess in New York. Nate Foy's been following the back and forth. Now, Nate, the administration in Washington, Biden, blames New York's mayor, city, and New York's governor for this.
That's exactly right.
That's the blame game.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a back and forth after receiving a lot of criticism, including from Governor Hochul just in the past week. The Biden administration is now fighting back. A team from the Department of Homeland Security recently evaluated New York City's migrant response, and take a look at what they found. A DHS statement reads in part, quote, "The team has provided recommendations for improvements, including data collection, case management, and increased communication with migrants on work authorizations."
Yeah, so again, they're playing the blame game here, okay? They're playing the blame game. Eric Adams is blaming Biden. Biden's blaming Eric Adams. And this is something that, again, is a bad look for Democrats when you have a mayor of a major city like New York City, probably the most, I would say, probably important city in the country financially, right? Like, this is one of the most powerful mayors in the country. When you have one of the most powerful mayors in the country openly blaming the Democrat Party president for what is happening at the southern border in the illegal immigration crisis, that's a big deal. It is not a good look for Joe Biden. Now, we all know that Joe Biden has weaponized the Justice Department and FBI to go after political opponents, like, for example, Trump. But in my opinion, I don't think that Biden's weaponization is just limited to going after Republicans, because just like a mob boss, Biden's using law enforcement. He's using his enforcement arm to keep Democrats that get out of line in line, right? And get them back in line. And that seems to be what is happening to Eric Adams, because like I told you guys, it seems that they've turned up the heat on Eric Adams in this investigation of illegal influence peddling when it comes to his campaign and the Turkish government.
We're going to begin with breaking news, and we have just learned that FBI agents seized New York City Mayor Eric Adams' phones and an iPad earlier this week. Now, this is part of the federal corruption investigation into if the Adams' mayoral campaign conspired with the Turkish government and others to funnel money. Now, Josh Einiger has just been following the latest information. He's in the newsroom. He's going to give us what he knows. What do you do, Josh?
First of all, David, we should stress that no one has publicly accused Mayor Adams of any crime, nor has anyone suggested he personally is the target of an investigation. But in the past half hour, an attorney for the mayor's campaign has confirmed what would seem to be quite an escalation in this federal investigation into his campaign. As first reported this afternoon in the New York Times, federal agents serving a search warrant approached the mayor on the street Monday evening and demanded he turn over electronic devices. Federal agents reportedly walked right up to the mayor, told his security detail to step away. Then they joined him in his SUV and took from him 2 cell phones and an iPad. The FBI searched the home of his lead fundraiser a week ago, part of an investigation into straw donations that might have come from a foreign country. Word of this broke today, just 2 days after we interviewed the mayor on Eyewitness News. He told Bill and Sade he hadn't been interviewed by federal officials, by federal officials yet as part of this entire investigation.
I tell everyone that's associated with my staff and my campaign, we follow the law. That is my #1 rule. People can tell you, they hear me say it on the campaign trail when I was in Borough Hall. We follow the law, and we're going to comply and be as transparent as possible. As a former member of law enforcement, I believe inquiries should be really complied with, and we're going to continue to do that.
The mayor's attorney said moments ago that the mayor, as I pointed out, has not been accused of any wrongdoing, and he does continue to cooperate with the investigation. The statement actually said he complied immediately with the FBI's request and provided them willingly with those electronic devices. The story is just breaking right now. We'll keep monitoring it, and we'll bring you the very latest tonight as we get it, and of course on Eyewitness News at 5.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, again, I think there's a couple things going on here. Right, Eric Adams definitely is guilty. Okay, his campaign is probably guilty because all the politicians basically influence peddle. Okay, that's how they get rich. That's how they make money. They're all into influence peddling. They're all selling us out to foreign governments and stuff like that. Right? I mean, the irony here is that Joe Biden is like the biggest influence peddler like in the country. Right? He's president of the United States. I think the FBI should actually be raiding Sackchinian's house in Delaware and his offices or whatever, right? I mean, they're purposely trying not to look for that evidence, right, and to investigate that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I also think that, again, this has to do with Eric Adams getting out of line when it comes to the Democrats and their talking points on the illegal immigration crisis. Again, it's a very bad look for a New York mayor, a Democrat mayor, to blame the Democratic president and the administration for the disaster that is happening at the border and in that city. Now, it just so happens that 2 days after this raid happened, Eric Adams was asked about the illegal immigration crisis and what solutions are there for it. And as you can tell, his tone has changed quite a bit. He ain't necessarily playing the blame game as much as he was before. Take a look.
And we'll open the floor to any questions.
Great. Charles?
Mr. Mayor, I was sort of wondering about the optics of you deciding to come back from Washington, where you were supposed to meet with the people at the White House about the migrant problem. You have a situation where you said that the migrant problem is going to destroy the city. You have a situation where you have to come up with a 5% budget modification and cut agencies this very month. So do you think that it was a wise optic for you to have come home, given the fact that migrants are probably your #1 problem?
Migrants are our #1 concern in this city. I have made that clear. And what I am really pleased with is that we built that coalition. And that's why coalitions are important. In D.C., you had the mayor from Chicago, the mayor of Denver. We're hearing messages from the mayor, from the governor of Massachusetts, of Houston, Los Angeles. We're seeing a coalition that I talked about for quite some time. And because that coalition was in place, they were able to continue the meetings. I'm looking forward to continue to go to Washington and continue to lean on this issue that's impacting our city. As you stated, is going to cause 5% cuts during the November plan. And then in January, we're going to have to come and look at another 5% cut. So this is a crucial issue. Marsha, you've been covering me for years. You know how I am. When there's an issue that needs to be addressed, I want to be on the ground and make sure it's addressed and to make sure our team is compliant with the transparency that I expect from anyone that's part of not only my campaign team, but my team here at City Hall. When I received the notification, I did not want to be sitting inside a meeting somewhere when there was something playing out here in the city. And if there was any other reason to come back to the city, I would do so.
Wasn't, you know, I mean, what was, I mean, it must have been a hard decision going through your head. I mean, White House, migrants, something going on back here, and by the time you found out about it, the raid had already taken place.
Yeah, and you know, that's interesting because I heard many people talk about, you know, coming back to the city at the time and how it, you know, how it impacted, what were the optics. You can't govern by optics. You got to govern by action. And if you govern by anytime someone going to perceive something and put a tint to it, then you're not going to make the right decisions when you need to make the right decisions. You know, this issue of the migrant, it's not going away. I will be back in D.C. and I will address the issue that I've been able to put together this coalition about. And so people are going to interpret your actions you know, in many different ways. You have to go with your good, authentic leadership style. And my leadership style has always been the same. And, you know, sometimes it get good optics, sometimes it get bad optics. But I'm going to continue to be the leader that I've always been.
Yeah, so again, he's taking a noticeably different tone, okay, in the sense that he's still low-key begging for help, right? He said, well, I'm still going to push on the issue. You know, I look forward to going back to D.C. We built a coalition, but he didn't mention Biden. He didn't mention how the federal government needs to step up. He, you know, didn't talk about what's going on at the border or anything like that, okay? He really just kept it as kind of like very, you know, high level as possible without, you know, placing any type of blame on anybody, okay, without calling out Biden or Democrats. And in my opinion, again, I think that the writing's on the wall here for Eric Adams, okay? I think that it probably is likely that his campaign engage in influence peddling because, again, this is what politicians do, right? They're all corrupt. And he got his card pulled, right? He's, you know, getting his Negro wake-up call from the Democrat mafia, right? And they're deciding to go after him. Who knows? Is it too late for him to save himself? Right? Can he talk his way out of this? Probably not. I don't know, right? They may end up formally charging him and going after him, which would be interesting, okay? And that accomplishes a couple goals. Well, one, you can basically shut up a loudmouth mayor who was basically, you know, a pain in the side. But it also, for the Biden administration, may show that, hey, the FBI is not weaponized. See, we're not weaponizing the FBI and the DOJ against conservatives and Trump, right? We're not doing it against our political opponents. Look, we took down Eric Adams, right? You know, we took down the other Democrat senator, Menendez, right? We see, we're fair and, you know, impartial, right? But again, the reality of what's going on here is that all these politicians are corrupt, including Joe Biden. He influence peddle as well, too. He's the biggest influence peddler. And Republicans, for whatever reason, can't really seem to nail the guy, right? When it comes to, you know, actually impeaching him, okay? Which is a damn shame, but who knows? Maybe Republicans are afraid, too, because, you know, hey, this is how Democrats roll, right? And maybe Republicans don't want to end up like Eric Adams. Maybe, you know, Biden is not just sending a message to Eric Adams. Maybe send a message to anybody that crosses the Biden administration or high-level Democrats this is your fate, right? This is your fate. But again, it's about power, right? Who's in power, who has the control, and they're the ones that call the shots in regards to who actually faces consequences for their crimes, right? And in this case right here, I think Eric Adams and his criticisms of the Biden administration made it a lot easier, at the very least, for the FBI to weaponize DOJ to go after him, right? He certainly is not helping himself by his open criticism of the Biden administration, okay? I guarantee you, if he would have played go along to get along like Brandon Johnson, this wouldn't be happening, right? So again, the question really is, are they actually going to formally bring charges against Eric Adams? It seems like, again, the investigation is heating up. I mean, they shaking the man down in broad daylight. Clearly to me, it seems like at the very least, they have some type of interest in Eric Adams, and he may be implicated in whatever illegal or criminal activities were going on in his campaign, right? He may have been aware. And again, I think personally he got his card pulled for opening his mouth too much. But again, you see, this is how Democrats move, right? This is how they move, okay? Anybody that tries to stand up to them, this is what happens, right? They get put in their place, okay? So, hey, we'll see, right? We'll see. But, again, this is Eric Adams. This is Negro wake-up call, right? This is the Biden administration cracking a whip on him and putting him back in his place, okay? This is how it works. This is how it works. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.